Welcome to Business Mentorship, Keepin It Real, where we introduce corporate leaders who have taken the leap to business owner and participate with their great idea in our guest blog found on shareyourstories.online. Our guest is June Wilcox. Emily is an entrepreneur, a podcast host, and money coach who shares her trademarked formula for success with other entrepreneurs and joins us from Los Angeles, California. It is my pleasure to introduce and welcome June Wilcox.
Thank you, Trish. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm really looking forward to our conversation because, if there's one thing that really is top of mind for lots of entrepreneurs is money and being able to create their own level of wealth. Yeah. So you built a six-figure side hustle while in corporate. And within 2 years, you quit your job and you've never looked back. But everybody knows that, a business happens with a light bulb moment. So when was your light bulb moment? What gave you the courage or the thought to start your own business?
Well, I actually didn't think that the side hustle would turn into full-time entrepreneurship. But I returned from maternity leave back to corporate and hated it, which was a total surprise to me. I thought that I would be a working mom. I was raised by a working mom. My sisters were working moms. And so it just never occurred to me that my well-laid plans would just be completely upended by motherhood. And I would it wasn't that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and only raise my daughter, but I just really wanted to be with her and have a meaningful business. And, the line of work that I was in sales. And so I was like driving all over LA with breast pumps attached to me, paying someone else $1,000 to watch my kid each month. Right. And I'm like, what are we doing here? This is not right.
So it's almost like you had to rejig your personal priorities based on your lifestyle, right?
That's right.
And I think that happens for lots of us in life, right? Like it's almost, there's always these special events, I call them, where, you take a breath and you sit back and you say, okay, what's really next for me? Is this really working for me? So it wasn't necessarily that you didn't enjoy corporate anymore, but you found that your lifestyle was then pushing you in a new direction.
Yeah, that's right.
And so in terms of the business that you started, why don't you share with our viewing and listening audience who maybe haven't read your guest blog, what was the first business that you actually started, which was in 2017, correct?
It was in 2018. Okay. And it was a baby clothing company. And so we were selling like really trendy, higher fashion, kind of adult humor baby onesies on Amazon.
Really? And so what gave you the idea to sort of start on Amazon? Because we've all heard, Amazon is like the biggest place to shop, especially post-COVID, where we're all looking for things that are easily accessible, and it gives you a worldwide audience. So why Amazon?
My husband was working at a startup that was absolutely crushing it on Amazon, just seeing insane growth. And at that time, they were big enough that they were having meetings like with Amazon employees as well. And so Jeff was just privy to the model and what was working well on the channel. And so it was like at that time, you wanted things that were small and light, that were around a $20 price point. And then we had just become parents. So of course, like all of that was on our mind. And he was like, I just see an opportunity. I think we should do it. And so then I designed some stuff, and, I think we started with 25 pieces. Like we were very small-minded in our thinking, but then it very rapidly started taking off. And, we sold over $1 million in baby onesies, within the first couple of years, which was
amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was surprising and amazing. And it definitely planted the seed that, maybe by the time I had a second kiddo, I wouldn't have to do it the same way.
Sure. And so what skill do you, I mean, I love that you sort of co-founded your brilliant idea with your husband, but what skill do you think took you from corporate to entrepreneurship that really helped you bridge the gap?
I think it was mostly mindset, being willing to take risks and um, being willing to actually be pretty bad at most things and just kind of stumble through it anyway. Um, Particularly with Amazon, like most of us have a consumer relationship with it and it's very easy. That's why we love it. On the seller side of things, it's not very easy. It's actually very hard. It's roadblock after roadblock. And especially if you're new to this, it's like you have to buy UPCs, then you need to have them assigned in ASIN, and that has to be uploaded, and things don't go like it's very complex. And our mindset was one of our competitors just quit. Oh, somebody else just got stuck here and they stopped. We're not going to stop. We're going to keep going.
Okay.
And that was really helpful in getting through just all of the challenges of even getting the business up and running.
Sure. So now one of the things that you've done, which I love, is you've trademarked a formula for success that you're now sharing with other entrepreneurs. Is it about Amazon or is it about mindset?
Yeah, it's not related to Amazon. So just to kind of like fast forward the story a bit, when I was pregnant with my son and ready to go out on maternity leave, we started an Amazon marketing agency to augment our e-commerce business. We had a lot of people coming to us like, "How are you having this
Sure.
success?" And so
Right.
we built out a team. Um, and that agency is now does 7 figures a year. So those two enough together were enough for me to leave corporate. And I was very happy being the CEO of that agency. That was most of my time and effort for the subsequent 2 years, no, 3 years. And then I got a very clear kind of like message from the divine to take a step back. And I thought it was temporary. The message I got was take 6 weeks away. And so I did very reluctantly. And during that time, I understood that I was meant to kind of change some of the structure of that agency so that I could hand it over to the team. And I was meant to be focused on coaching women entrepreneurs around money and money mindset. Because what I learned in growing both of those businesses is it it always was me. I was my upper limit problem every single time. And when I did the deep inner healing work and looked at all of those limiting beliefs that I had, which now I call money wounds, when I was able to diagnose and start healing them, that's what made the significant difference. And I always had it the other way around. I always was chasing the financial goal. And I thought, once I hit this, then I'm going to feel this other way. And it didn't happen. We had our first $100,000 cash month in the agency, which like had been a goal of mine forever. And I thought that I was going to feel safe and successful and like I'd made it and that things were just going to be easy from that point. And I didn't. Instead, I was like, I don't understand why I don't feel celebratory. I'm feeling anxious. I don't know if we can do this again. And that was the first time I really could see that the outside environment's not going to change the inside. It has to be the inside first, and that changes the outside. And so from there, that became my signature methodology, which is called Money Wound Medicine, to help other women entrepreneurs uncover these hidden blocks that are really the thing that's in their way from
Mhm.
stepping into the wealth that they desire. And we have a method to permanently heal them and then alchemize those wounds into wealth.
You know what I love about your entire concept is I love your reference to the fact that, listen, as business people, we all have a strategic plan, right? I mean,
Yes.
some folks, we agonize over those numbers. We're crushing those monthly statistics to say, how much further do I need to get? What do
Yeah.
I need to change? What do I need to tweak? And I love the fact that you've shared with our viewing and listening audience that, okay, so you reached that pinnacle, the thing that you thought was the most amazing, going to be the most amazing thing. And when you got there, it didn't provide you with the emotional feelings that you thought you were going to get. And,
Yeah.
I tend to find, to be quite honest, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years. And I have to say that I came to a belief system myself that it can't just be about the money.
Yeah.
Because if it's just about the money, it won't last. And to your point, what's really very important, I think, to share with folks is that it's also not an overnight success,
Right.
right? I
That's
mean,
right.
the blood, sweat, and tears and the time and the effort that you put in behind the scenes in order to make the front facing part of our business as successful as it is a lot of work.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so one of the things that I really appreciated about your story was that you're really marrying mindset with a lot of other things. It's
Yeah.
lifestyle, it's your business, it's the person, because you're the face behind the logo,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And I call it the joyous path to millions, and that's the name of my podcast as well, because to me it's more of a movement than anything. And it's like, when I work with women, that's what I feel so passionate about, but really for any human, um, when we just decide that there's no end that gets to justify the means if the means isn't enjoyable.
Right,
And that's the old paradigm. Most of what we have examples of with wealth is this idea that you're willing to do things that kind of hold your nose and do it, or work really hard and kind of sprint your way there, and then once you get there, that's when you get to relax. And not even just in entrepreneurship, like that's
yeah,
I mean, I know you're in Canada, but the American culture for sure is basically like, grind out a job that you may or may not like for your entire career, and then you get to enjoy retirement.
yeah, absolutely.
And
That's a
yeah,
Western culture, I think. That's
it
a
is.
Western ideology, right? I mean, that's truly
Yeah.
what we believe.
Yeah, and it's like the joyous path to millions is the exact opposite, where it's like, yes, we have a destination. We are moving in a certain direction strategically, but we're very focused on enjoying the journey.
Right.
And if we're not enjoying it, we're willing to make adjustments along the way, because it's like, that's the actual important part, because that's our whole lives. Our whole
Right.
life is the journey. So it's actually quite important that we enjoy
Yes.
it and that we're doing something we love.
Yeah, that's very true. And the other thing I think that's extremely important is the community impact,
Yeah.
because with financial freedom comes responsibility.
Yes.
And then with that responsibility comes giving back to your community, whether it's your local community or the global community or a national community. But has to be some sort of give back with the success that you receive. So,
Yeah.
is that part of the success formula that you share? And what are you and Jeff giving back to your local community based on your success?
Yeah, what I have seen in coaching hundreds of women entrepreneurs is that that part's never missing.
Right.
And when you look at women's role in cultures, and even like the lioness, it's like she hunts for the pack. She hunts for her children. The lion would eat all of it. So she's actually got to make sure that everyone has food. And I find that, like, that's one of the gifts that women offer to society, is that we do tend to look around and we want to make sure that everyone's taken care of. And so I I've never found a woman where I've had to give any coaching around, like, okay, now it's time to
Community.
be generous and share your success. It's like,
Yeah.
they really want to do that. That's a huge part of their mission. And usually the piece that's missing actually is the more selfish component, like
Yeah. Be enjoying
understanding
the
their,
success.
yeah, like their own
Yeah.
personal why, and deciding that they're worthy enough to have it, and that they deserve it, and it's okay for them to have it too. Like, that's typically the part that I find is missing. Um but you asked how we give back, and of course our vision is much bigger than even what we're doing right now. But I had a few years ago, I thought, we've been we give regularly, but I'd love to just save up like what we normally give on like a monthly basis, and I want to give one of those giant checks. And so the singer Jewel has a really cool foundation called Inspiring Children Foundation, and she's actually incorporates, her and her team, a lot of mindfulness and meditation practices to help at-risk youth that have had very traumatic backgrounds to just like rewrite their story. And it's a cool hands-on program. They offer housing support for these kids. They have their own schooling curriculum. They get them into tennis. A lot of those kids end up getting tennis scholarships. Like, it's very comprehensive. And so we got to have that moment of going and meeting them when they were at camp in Malibu and presenting them with the big $10,000 check and getting to talk to the high schoolers that were there. And it was really neat.
Oh, that's a really wonderful story about having a very practical way, a very hands-on way. And it must be really gratifying to be able to see the smiles, right?
Yes.
Because really the reason why we give back to the communities in which we live, it's not a selfish reason. It's the giving, right?
Yes.
And the receiving is the smiles and the stories that we hear from the people that have been impacted by the generosity. So congratulations to you both. I
Yeah.
want to
Thank you.
switch our conversation a little bit to image, because one of the things that we're doing in our conversation is introducing the person behind the logo. And one of the things that we do is we spend a lot of time on building a brand, right? On whatever that logo might be, whatever the front facing consumer perspective is. And one of the things that you do is you wear your hat, which you're wearing today. So I thought you could perhaps share with our viewing and listening audience the significance of the hat, because there's clearly a significance. It's in all of your marketing materials. It's in all of your, your social media channels. So what's the significance of your wonderful hat?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Trish, this question is cracking me up because the significance this morning is that it's a bad hair day,
You're having a
but
bad
I'm
hair
going to
day.
Pilates after this. And so I was like, okay, we're just going to throw on the hat so then we can go to Pilates and then afterwards we'll wash the hair. um, so it's accidental, but I'm so glad that, I almost got away with it just looking like it was a signature branding move. I don't know, the last photo shoot that I did that I absolutely loved, like I just knew that I wanted to bring a couple hats, which I hadn't done in previous photo shoots. And then I just loved all of those
The look.
photos. And
Yeah.
so then they're everywhere and they're on my social media and they're on my website and everything. So I guess I'm in my hat era for some reason.
You know what's really wonderful about that is it's part of your personality,
There you go.
right? And I
Yeah.
think that's really important for everyone to understand too, is that, as our businesses evolve and grow and change, and, the core foundation may stay the same, but the people change,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you're
Yeah.
not the same CEO today as you were when you first started. I mean,
So
there's been a
true.
lot that has happened on the journey, right? So I
Right.
love the fact that you're sharing a little bit of Emily. You're sharing a little bit
Yeah.
of who you are as a person, which I think is a really lovely way for people to make a connection, because it's trust and integrity that helps us build a business, right?
Absolutely. Agreed.
So, if there was something that you could share with our viewing and listening audience, we've talked about the fact that you've trademarked your wonderful success formula. Can you share something with the folks who are listening and thinking, okay, I've got this thing that's really great and it's very unique and it's different than what everyone else is doing? How do I trademark it? Why is it important? Can you perhaps just share why that particular part of your business was important for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's like the legal aspect, right, of getting intellectual property, and that can be of varying importance depending on what kind of business you have.
Right.
I would say in like coaching and consulting, in this is just one person's opinion, but I think it's less about intellectual property protection and it's more about you've just got to get a lot of reps under your belt. You need to coach and coach and coach or consult and consult and consult. And then pretty soon you'll start to notice patterns. And when you can then turn those patterns into like a signature program or a step by step process that you can take people through, it's really valuable for a lot of reasons. Number one, it helps you to know what the roadmap is going to be. Number two, it helps the client to get results faster. Um, and we need some of that structure. Like it's the marriage of the masculine and feminine energy, and the masculine provides that structure and that roadmap, and we tend to feel safe and like we can relax a little bit more when we're like, oh, okay, well, the guide knows this trail.
Right.
And so it's like, I do think sometimes when people are newer, they think they try to force a signature methodology, and it's like, you can't really force it because you've got to get the reps in. That's what sort of distills it, and one day it will just make sense, and it will kind of appear in front of you, and then you can build the name and the structure around it. But certainly, in our other businesses, and when we were doing the baby onesies, like, copywriting, designs, trademarking your brand name, I do think all of that is important. And um, perhaps, at least in this coaching industry, that's still a bit of a younger industry, there isn't enough focus on intellectual property or
Sure.
thinking about the brand. So I'm glad that you brought the question forward, because I think two things are true. You should protect what you've got, and you've got to just learn it and get the expertise first in order for it to make sense.
And that's so true, and I appreciate the fact that, because it also helps to build not only brand identity, but the trust and integrity that you need for a successful business. And as you say, that just doesn't appear. That happens with building your own skills and expertise.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that we do in the guest blog is we share 3 words of advice. And I thought it would be a wonderful way for us to wrap up our conversation today by you giving our viewing and listening audience what the meaning is for your 3 words. And they are new paradigm wealth.
Mm. Well, I touched on it before, but I think to me, new paradigm wealth, if you've never heard of it, it's a great 3 words because it'll get you curious and thinking about it and what it means to you. To me, it's an invitation into having money flow to you in these very abundant supplies through doing what you love. And it's like sharing your gift with the world, and that being a path for wealth to come to you. And for you to do that, you don't have to wear a suit if you're not a suit wearing person. You don't have to change anything about who you are. You get to do it your way. You can do it working from home with a baby strapped to your chest, which is what I was doing when I started,
Right.
my businesses. Um, and so it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the old paradigm. It's just that for some of us, the old paradigm didn't feel like it worked.
Right.
And if it doesn't feel like it works for you, then you get to be a trailblazer, and you get to build new paradigm wealth, and then you get to be the example for someone else, that it's like, oh, she didn't have a formal education and she did it. Oh, she had young kiddos and she did it. Maybe I can do it too. And I'm passionate about trying to be a good example, for other women, so that hopefully they see my story and there's one piece of it in there for them that makes them think that they also can have wealth.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us today, because not only, Emily, do I think that you're a role model for people on how to do things a little bit differently, but I also think that you give people permission to think outside the box and explore new options and avenues. And I absolutely love your theory of letting the wealth flow to you. With a new paradigm of thinking, as well as a new paradigm of wealth. So thank you so much for joining us. I know for sure that not only are you a role model in your community, but you're a role model in the global community, and I'm sure a mentor for lots of other people who will come in your path. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
I'd like to thank you, our viewing and listening audience, for joining us today for this edition of Keeping It Real, introducing you to the person behind the logo. If you'd like to connect with our guest, you'll find Emily's contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, founder and host for the series. And if you're interested in sharing your business story, visit our website at shareyourstories.online. And for other inspirational stories, subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship, Keepin It Real. Thank you so much.